United States of America, via their website in Nigeria, the embassy in Nigeria, U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, in a piece of information meant for Americans intending to visit Nigeria. The United States Embassy description of Nigeria is something for everyone to look into. It describes the country in a very unflattering terms. It harps on two major points, namely crude infrastructure and poor security. As you know, in the southwestern part of Nigeria now, they've come up with a security outfit called Amotekun. Although this present Awusa Fulani Caliphate, they are fighting seriously hard to make sure that this security outfit in the southwestern part of Nigeria does not kick off. But then, like a child that has been born already, you cannot abort that child. And the governors in the southwestern part of Nigeria, many of them, all of them, if I might use the word, are all standing firm, even though they were called to Aso Rock to discuss about this. Of course, the Hausa Fulani, the Buhari's administration, they do not want anything that will take Nigeria to the next level. Anyone familiar with the Nigerian terrain knows fully well that its performance in these two areas, I'm talking of security and infrastructure, is horrendously low. Thankfully, the embassy says so quite, without apology. For instance, on health, the embassy confirms that Nigeria has properly trained health professionals, but lacks good health facilities as the criminals in government, they steal, they kill, and they loot. That's all they do. That's why Buhari himself will run away down to the United Kingdom every time for medical attention, and his own wife and his own children. Why? Because they are running a system where they care less about the people, and all they are interested in is what money they need to steal for the next election. So they also talked about the unavailable, medicines that are unavailable, including medications for diabetes, hypertension. It says that medicines should be purchased with utmost caution because counterfeit pharmaceutical products are common problems. And you know what this is, and you know the parts that are much more in counterfeiting medications and all of that. So when we look at all of these things, we need to look at these things. It's better we look at it objectively, rather than being, trying to say, oh, it's all Buhari. What about these medicines? We know the people that are much more involved in counterfeit medicines. So we are going to go to all the concerns that they raised, the red flag that they raised. So you can also see for yourself if you are also, you're doing something, if you are doing something that is not in line with the direction of productivity, so that when we have a new nation we can look into all this too, because if you're not careful to be bringing in the old wine into a new bottle, and it's useless. So they talked about those medications. It says that medicine should be purchased with utmost caution because counterfeit pharmaceuticals are a common problem, and distinguishing them from genuine medications may prove difficult. The expose also says that Nigerian hospitals often expect immediate cash payment for the health services rendered. Of course, that's not a big issue, as it is the practice everywhere in the world most of the time. It thumbs down the emergency health services in the country, saying that they are practically non existent and circumscribed by unreliable and unsafe blood supply for transfusion. It then cancels intending visitors to Nigeria to consider Europe, South Africa, or the United States itself for treatments that require such services. It notes quite sadly that ambulance services are not present throughout the country, and that's to let you know that Nigeria is a very big nation, or are unreliable in most areas. The embassy's observations and comments on water supply in Nigeria are quite instructive, as it notes no area in Nigeria have safe tap water. Now, that's not to say they don't have tap water. They have tap water, but we are talking about the safety of the tap water itself. Safety of the tap water itself. So they went further to say that this is specifically unnerving since pipes, most of them rusted, typically bear water from public consumption from moribund reservoirs, reservoirs that are supposed to have been thrown away and a new one built, or somehow they find a way of making sure that they are healthy. So they said that these reservoirs are moribund throughout the country by the World Health Organization standards. The approved lifespan of water pipes is 5 years. Sadly, these pipes have hardly ever been replaced since they were laid decades ago. Now, that's not to say all countries in the world they take off their pipes every 5 years and bring in a new one. If you've seen such, maybe it happens anyway, but it's not all countries that do that every 5 years. They replace. Imagine how the pipes in the United States of America will be replaced, all of them in 5 years. In Europe, all of them replaced in 5 years. That would be a very huge job, you know. Of course, you know what it is, but according to World Health Organization, so it is proper to consider pipe-borne water wherever it exists in the country as unsafe. Now, people have a way around this. Rather than that, they have their own borehole. Borehole is what people have private water for themselves in their house, so as to cut off all of this. So they say it is clear that even ice blocks, brewed from such unsafe sources are not to be trusted for human consumption. In the areas of roads and safe traffic, the embassy is right on the money in its submission that roads are generally in poor condition, causing damage to vehicles and contributing to hazardous traffic conditions. You need to check those deep potholes. The governor, the local government chairman of that area, they spend the money, they used it to sponsor their children abroad. It also berated the public transport system, describing it as unsafe throughout the country. According to it, public transportation vehicles such as buses and motorbikes are unsafe due to poor maintenance, high speed, and overcrowding. Of course, you need to see how most of these buses they take overload. That's what they call overload. Sadly, it is not certain that government across the country have ever considered the import of this damning description on the United States website. They care less. Otherwise, they would have taken concrete steps to make the country a truly modern society. As they have foreign citizenship, and Nigeria is just a place where they dip their hands into. That country, I don't know, there's something about that nation that has kept on for this long time. If not, just imagine if it was like Rwanda and the rest of those countries, they would have, scattered and crushed themselves. The import of the description is that governance in the country has been held in abeyance over the years. As a matter of fact, this expose throws cold water on the expectations of tourists and other potential investors in the country, as Nigeria care less about tourists. Nigeria is not really a tourist country. It's not really a tourist country, as they only drill the oil, steal the money, buy private jet, yacht, and all the rest of those things. That's what they do. They buy yachts, they fly, they do whatever they like. They send their kids abroad, they buy foreign passport. That's what they do. So they don't care about the longevity or the productivity of the nation as it is. So there is nothing like tourism anyway. And when you talk about investors, of course, investors will come to drill oil, steal the oil, they take out the oil, they refine it, bring it back and sell it to Nigerians in billions. What a shame. It is simply delusional for the government to claim to be in search of foreign direct investment from anywhere in the face of primitive infrastructure. Particularly when there is no sign that efforts to change these narratives are in place. Yes, they are coming up with some new train, but how long? It's a shame. From Lagos, Lagos seems to be at least the place where certain kind of progress is seen. Maybe some other state, maybe let's say Cross River, let's say Calabar, maybe some few places, and then the Central Capital Territory. Maybe they've put in money there and there, but then most of the other states are not looking good. Obviously, the United States Embassy description of Nigeria should be seen as a call to action by the country's leadership, rather than chasing around cows, Nama. They should pull out of the this home, this pot of self-delusion. Things are not working in that country. On their part, Nigerians must take the task of removing the country's depraved and utterly corrupt politicians from office through, well, if I might use the word, the so-called ballot box, which we know is not necessarily working. So it's serious. It's serious, and the manner at which these things have been pointed out. And I hope, if you're listening out there, what is it that you are doing from your own end that is actually bringing things down? Not because of the Nigeria itself, but because of what will happen when Nigeria breaks apart. Are you going to bring in that same characteristics that you must have, been part of in the old defunct Nigeria, whatever it is. So guys, that's what it is for now. If you're not a member of this channel, let us grow it together by you tapping on the subscription button and the red notification icon bell below. It will alert you whenever videos are uploaded. And if you are already a member of this channel, wow, I say a very big thank you for the support.